What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Off the Top Rope, Off the Mic Sports Network. So, I didn't get a chance to get to this. It's been a week in the world of professional wrestling. It hasn't really been a good week in the world of professional wrestling, but I missed this, and I have to bring this up. So, um, Tony Khan was on Z100's New York Superstar crossover, I guess, and so he said the following. Um, he said, quote, "I think the stories in AEW have been as strong as ever. I think the stories in AEW have been fantastic this year, and we've been talking a long time about some of the great stories in AEW." Geez, he says stories a lot. And you even just said how fantastic you thought some of the storytelling around Jon Moxley's championship reign has been. People even question that aspect of that. I think that was proven right. Whether you love them or not, nobody can question there's a lot of storytelling in AEW. I think it's fantastic, and a lot of fans who actually pay attention to it think it's great. There's people who that would say there's a lack, and I don't agree with this. I think it's untrue of stories in AEW. I don't think that's true at all, and it's really not only a misconception, but a falsehood that people spread. Okay, so I know a lot of people get at me in the comments for basically knocking this, and I'm one of these people that Tony Khan wants to reference. Um, just because you have stories doesn't mean that completely absolves you of, doing your job. Because this notion that AEW storytelling in 2025 is as good as it's ever been is just a fallacy. It's a joke. It's not true. It is a complete and utter lie. Because if you want to sit here and tell me that 2019, 2020, and even 2021 AEW storytelling wasn't peak AEW, then you aren't a really true diehard AEW fan. You're just a sicko. You are just a sicko. Because to me, AEW in 2019, 2020, we got, that Hangman Kenny Omega arc where they were the team, and then obviously that incredible match at Revolution right before the pandemic. And we had the inner circle stuff that was a great bit of story. Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, and some of the early stuff from Cody was really interesting, and then it kind of fell off there after he put that goofy stipulation on himself that kind of hamstrung him for most of his run, and is part of the reason why he probably wanted out of there, among many other things. But you know, the storytelling, listen, everybody can tell me that the Death Riders was a successful story in AEW, but if you want to sit here and tell me that with a straight face, you're lying. Because up until Hangman Adam Page got involved in the Death Rider storyline, that storyline was terrible. Need I remind you, we were subjected to some of the worst pay-per-view main events in professional wrestling history. There was Full Gear, and I like Orange Cassidy. Full Gear was bad. World's End was bad. That four-way match, which Hangman was involved in, but that was where Hangman was still going through his crisis, and Jay White was involved in that too. We had the Copeland match, which was a disaster at Revolution. Swerve Strickland couldn't even salvage this because of that overbooked mess at Dynasty. And really, they were really saved because Hangman Adam Page was really the right guy to win the championship. And who knows, it maybe could have been Will Ospreay. And maybe Will Ospreay could have saved this storyline. But to me, that was 9 months or so of just garbage. MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, they blew that to bed in like 3 weeks. Hangman and MJF, probably the last really, truly great storyline that they have. They're going to another championship match already, because Hangman and MJF, there's nobody else for Hangman to face. They blew their best reunion storyline with Cope and Christian. They've already blown through that in the big moments in that. So listen, they've got stories. I understand that. But the difference between great wrestling promotions and bad wrestling promotions is it good? And don't get it twisted. I think WWE storytelling in 2025 has been piss poor too. The only difference is WWE's making money. And they're, in a lot of ways, they're ripping people off. AEW is much more affordable than WWE. Why can't AEW fill up buildings? It's because their storytelling and their creative sucks. If their storytelling and their creative was better, people would pay less money than they're paying for WWE events and go to these shows. But they're not. Yeah, they got nearly 30,000 people in a baseball stadium. It was like closer to 27, 28,000. And it was a great moment for AEW. But what have you done since then? You've immediately rushed to Hangman and MJF rather than trying to, they've done a decent enough job of trying to build it, but this feels very forced and it feels very, unnecessary, and you could maybe invest more. Don't get me started on the Death Rider stuff. That Death Rider stuff is still going on with Darby Allin. We can't even get to the conclusion of that. It's just, if you're going to tell me that you have good storytelling and you're going to tell me that it's better than what you guys were doing, at the beginning of this company, go back to your roots and go back and watch some of the shit that you guys were doing in 2019 and 2020 and even out of the pandemic in 2021. That was some of the best. That was not only some of the best shit that AEW's done. It brought a lot of people over from WWE to AEW because Vince McMahon's creative was so fucking awful. And again, you have a opportunity here. AEW, I've said this, has a opportunity to do something with the momentum that they had, but they are all about just fast-tracking matches, fast-tracking moments, and trying to pop crowds in a short-term manner, which is why you have this loaded card for London with Forbidden Door, and none of it means anything. None of this means anything. Like, Cope and Christian, great. They're facing Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian. What the fuck is that supposed? The story's with FTR. And you rush to the hug, you rush to that story. Hangman and MJF, you're rushing to that. Tony Storm's got to face Athena. Like, they literally are doing, you want a good example? They're doing literally the same exact thing that they're doing with the women's division that they are doing with the men. Both Casino Gauntlet winners at All In Texas are cashing in their privileges at Forbidden Door. If you want to tell me that's good storytelling, you're fucking delusional. I'm not even a wrestling booker, okay? I'm a fan, okay? And even I know what good creative is. You couldn't write a story for 6 weeks coming out of All In Texas for Hangman Adam Page. You went back to the match that you did literally in Texas, but you did it in reverse. You did a Texas death match on pay-per-view, and then in front of 1,500 people, you did a straight wrestling match with the stipulation that nobody could get involved, yet everybody got involved. Again, AEW has had a creative problem for years. They've had a storytelling problem for years. And Tony Khan just consistently saying on social media, this is the best year we've ever had. This is the best storytelling we've ever had. Instead of telling everybody that you're doing that, why don't you go out and put your money where your mouth is? Because I'm telling you right now, you're not doing it. And I have to sneeze there because I'm allergic to bullshit. So, listen, I hope AEW figures this out because they have got an opportunity here. I'm not saying that WWE creative is so bad as it was back, in, the pre-COVID days and then post-COVID days under Vince McMahon. But it's not good. It's not good. SmackDown is freaking unwatchable. Raw, is pretty much very formulaic, with the Vision and all this other stuff with CM Punk. If AEW had better creative, they'd be filling up seats, and this would be a legitimate threat potentially to taking more people away. I don't think they're ever going to be WWE, but if your stories were better, people would show up and more people would watch on television. The numbers have been going down for years. The attendance has been going down for years. None of that's improved. None of that's improved this year. Yeah, you had a great moment in Texas. Cool. You had some great matches in Texas. But outside of the Death Riders, and even then, that wasn't even good. What's good in AEW right now? What's good? Hangman and MJF should feel way bigger, but they're rushing to the match after, MJF got the opportunity that he did. So, listen, you guys can tell me that I'm just shitting on this company, but it's just like I see quotes like this and it's like, dude, stop lying. Stop lying. And if you're seriously a diehard day one AEW fan and you're telling me that they're doing stuff better than they were 4 or 5 years ago, go back and watch those shows. You can go watch them on HBO Max. You can go watch them in a bunch of different formats now. Tell me that those shows with it, if you're gonna tell me that the stories back then are worse than what they are now, you're fucking delusional. You're just a sicko, and you're just enabling Tony Khan. So AEW doesn't have great stories. They need to get better, and hopefully they do, because like otherwise this is just going to continue to be a joke, and wrestling is going to suck this year because WWE doesn't seem to be very motivated to do anything either. I hope everybody fixes it, because this is getting sad, man. This is really getting sad. It's getting hard for me to come on here and talk about this crap because it's just not entertaining. It's boring. Wrestling should be so much better in 2025. And AEW, if they actually cared, they wouldn't be telling you this. They would go out there and do it. And they would do better stories. But this just sounds like damage control. Anyway, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.